Welcome, kia ora.
Kia ora.
We'll share those sentiments back to you. Tēnā tātou katoa, tari wai, tātou tama tēnei whare, tēnei pō, ngā mihi nui no wake. My name is Blackie Tuhi from Kanawa. But in the house we have Tuhi Hawk, Ngāti Whātua here, and on behalf of the whānau, we'd like to welcome you all here and begin our festivities with karakia. Jack will do our main mihi to you all. We're going to use a different poetic license, and all of our mihi will be in karakia. Ngāti Whātua will mihi to you. Our karakia is a spiritual one, everyone, but it includes all religions. Please don't feel left out. In essence, Tuhi will start and pay our respects to all of you in the house who are elements of the earth, the winds, the fires, and the waters that you put into poetic license, that you put into words, that you put into our hearts. So thank you for that this evening. Tuhi will acknowledge that in her own special way, with her own special voice. I don't even presume to assume I'm tangata whenua here. Back home is my territory, but here I humble out, and we'll let Ngāti Whātua mihi to you. And then I'll come in, and I'll be talking about Māori. I'll be establishing Māori, which is a life essence and a life force that you bring to our arena in so many special ways this evening, and as you have done over the past years. You'll hear me talk about Māori, instilling the Māori. We've heard Darrell back here with our musical instruments, but it's about the Māori of this house, it's about the Māori of kura, and kura is not a school, the kura is the essence of our beginnings back in the womb. So I'll be talking about the Māori of Sky Father, Earth Mother. It's all about duality, everything's about duality. That'll be the essence of my karakia. Just tune in, I'll probably move away from the mic. I just want a clear pathway to you all as we instill the Māori for our evening. Once again, e te whānau nui tunu, tēnā tātou katoa, ngā mihi nui. Mā te reo, Ngāti Whātua.
Kei taku waipu rea, he pā wairua, he pā tangata, kei taku whakarere heke iho mai ki tō waia ki tōku rehua ahina tore kauia te aroha.
I'll say Māori too, you say Māori ora. Māori too? Māori ora. Tēnei te Māori e whakatau nei, ko te Māori o tēnei kura. Tēnei te Māori e kātau, ko te Māori o rangi nui e tui ho nei, o papa ua nuku e toko tō ake nei. Ko nei roki te Māori e whakatau nei, ko te Māori o tēnei wānanga. Tēnei te Māori e kātau, te Māori ki tā te kupu e korohia ke ana. Ko nei roki te Māori e whakatau nei, ko te Māori o te piringa, ngā kokona nei o te whare. Ko nei roki te Māori e whakatau nei, ko te Māori o te tūtama tāne, tūtama wahine, tūtama iti. He Māori tū, he Māori ora, koe nei te matatau kaeke. Tutuhia moira, tōna mana, tōna ihi, tōna wana, tōna wehi, tūmuna mai he Māori tū, he Māori ora uhi, waero, tau mai te Māori, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e. Kia ora tātou. Kia koe Jack.
Nā mihi nui kia korua e kui e matua e te rangatira. Nā mihi nui kia korua mō te mana me te wairua I o mihi whakatau. Thank you Tuhi and Blackie for your mihi, We'll feel honoured that you've given this event your blessing. Ladies and gentlemen, special guests, tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi nui. I'm Nicola Leggett, Chair of the New Zealand Book Awards Trust, te ohu tiaki ki te rao hiringa. On behalf of my fellow trustees, I'm so delighted to welcome you all to the 2023 Ockham New Zealand Book Awards, the 55th year of our National Book Awards. Welcome to those who are watching us from elsewhere on the live stream, and a warm welcome to our special guests, including the Associate Minister for Arts, Culture and Heritage, Willow Jean Prime, who's racing here in her ministerial car as we speak and will join us shortly, Auckland Council Deputy Mayor Desley Simpson, and Auckland Councillors Lotu Fuli, Karen Leone and Shane Henderson. Councillors, we really appreciate the interest in this sector of our arts culture that your presence here shows. Welcome also to the Chair of the Auckland Writers Festival Trust, Lee Melville, her fellow trustees and festival patrons. A huge welcome and enormous thanks go to our festival funders and partners. Ockham, our cornerstone partner whose great vision and generosity sustains these awards. Mark, Ben, Will, Peter M and Adrian, it's so great to see you and so many of the Ockham whānau and friends here tonight. The late Jann Medlicott, through the Acorn Foundation, the truly wonderful funder of our generous fiction prize. Creative New Zealand, loyal supporter for several decades. Booksellers Aotearoa New Zealand, enthusiastic supporters of the Illustrated Non-Fiction Award. Mary and Peter Biggs, who are fresh from another successful Featherston Booktown and whose long commitment to supporting New Zealand poets drives their support of the Poetry Prize. And the Mātātuhi Foundation, established by the Auckland Writers Festival to provide another funding channel for the literature sector, where funding is traditionally so hard to come by, the generous funder for 2023 of all 4 of our Best First Book Awards. Our thanks to you all are heartfelt. Sincere thanks to the Auckland Writers Festival Trust and to the festival team, which has been so helpful to us in staging the event. We truly value this now very long partnership. Thanks to the festival's production supremo, Vicky Cooksley and her crew, including tonight's stage manager, Kelly Dunlop. And thanks also to the Academy of New Zealand Literature for its help throughout the awards campaign. And special thanks to the Book Awards Trust manager, Belinda Cook, who has worked so hard to make this event possible, the awards administrator, the unflappable Chris Chan, who you'll see on the stage later on in the program, and my fellow trustees of the New Zealand Book Awards Trust, fabulous people all. And so to tonight's category finalist, 16 fantastic authors who demonstrate so vividly how critical books are to our national conversation. We're very pleased to have been able to increase the prize money for all winners this year, and tonight we are paying out just over $112,500 in prize money, just as we were delighted to increase the size of the long list for general non-fiction in recognition of the large number of entries in that category. Congratulations to all our finalists and winners. We're also happy for you, we're so proud of you, and it will be a great privilege to hear you read to us tonight. Behind these authors stand their publishers, all 19 of them this year, a record number of individual publishing houses who invest in them and believe in them. We salute you, as we do the booksellers who put their books into readers' hands. Thank you to our 13 heroic judges, who last August started with a record 191 books, 20% more than the previous year, and have read thousands upon thousands of words and engaged in deep discussion with each other to select the 4 winners, plus the 4 Best First Book winners to be announced tonight. Please allow me to thank them individually now. For general non-fiction, Anna Rafferty Connell, Alison Jones, and Te Māori Tau. For poetry, Diane Brown, Siri Barford, and Gregory Kahn. For illustrated non-fiction, Jared Davidson, Anna Marie White, and Tawa Le'o, Stephen Stalin. And for fiction, Stephanie Johnson, John Huria, and Gemma Morrison joined in deciding the ultimate winner from their shortlist of 4 by our international judge, John Mitchison. Whoever wins tonight, may I urge you, if you haven't already, to read these books, and you can buy them afterwards in the bookshop at the foyer. I cannot end this speech without acknowledging the marvellous Jann Medlicott, who through the Acorn Foundation endowed the prize money for the Fiction Award in perpetuity, an incredible thing, in perpetuity. Many of you will have enjoyed seeing Jann and meeting her at last year's ceremony. Alas, not very long afterwards, she became gravely ill and she died in August. Last year, when Paula Morris and I took Jann out to lunch the day after the awards, she said to us, "If I'm never able to attend another Book Awards event, I could not be more happy in the knowledge that the Book Awards and the Fiction Prize in their new format have truly matured and have become all that I envisaged." Dear Jann, moi mai rā, haere, haere, haere. We look forward to continuing to work with the Acorn Foundation to see your wishes fulfilled, and every year that we award this incredible prize, we'll be reminded of your vision and huge generosity. It's now my great honour to welcome to the stage the Associate Minister for Arts, Culture and Heritage, the Honourable Willow Jean Prime, who did make it here in time. I hope you weren't speeding in that ministerial car. Minister, thank you so much for finding the time to be with us tonight, and welcome to the stage.
Tēnā tātou katoa kua hui hui mai nei I tēnei pō. Aha koa I tai tūreiti ahau, I te mātakitaki ahau I te karakia me te whakatau I runga I a pukamata. So the live stream is working, everybody. I just explained that even though I arrived just a few minutes late, I did manage to catch the karakia and the whakatau through the live stream that is happening right now. So e te mana whenua, Ngāti Whātua, tēnā koutou katoa, tēnā koutou, tēnā kōrua, nau I tuku te arawhata ki tō tātou matuinu te rangi, hei whakapuari I tēnei hui. Nō reira, tēnā tātou katoa. Tēnā koutou, it is my absolute privilege to be here. I am filling in for the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Arts, Culture and Heritage, Carmel Sepuloni, but it is my privilege because this is my first time attending the Ockham Awards, and I understand she's done many in the past. So let's have a great night, everybody. So it's wonderful to be here with you all this evening as we celebrate the 2023 Ockham New Zealand Book Awards. Now in their 55th year, the Ockhams hold a special place in the New Zealand literary calendar. This evening is where we get to celebrate the very best Aotearoa has to offer in fiction, poetry and non-fiction. It's a chance to recognise the depth of New Zealand's talent and reflect on the key role that literature and the written word play in the cultural lives of all New Zealanders. I believe that it's vital that we recognise the excellence in the arts, and this is especially true for the art of writing, which can so often be a solitary endeavour. Throughout its incarnations, New Zealand's National Book Awards have been an important way of providing public recognition for the achievements of our writers and of boosting the profile of New Zealand literature. I'd like to acknowledge the many people whose support helps make tonight a reality. First, thank you to the sponsors for their vision and belief in the importance of the awards, and to the New Zealand Book Awards Trust for its tireless work in ensuring recognition for this nation's authors, poets and publishers, and in turn encouraging readership and helping foster a healthy industry. And thank you to the judges, for whom this would have surely been a difficult but enjoyable task. I'd also like to acknowledge Creative New Zealand, cornerstone funder of the awards for decades now, and key supporter of our cultural ecosystem. Creative New Zealand's enduring commitment reflects the value placed by the organisation on lifting up both excellent works of literature and New Zealand authors. And of course, a huge acknowledgement goes out to all the authors and the publishers here tonight. Thank you for your vision, your hard mahi, and commitment to telling New Zealand stories, and for the power you and your books have to shape and transform our national story. I understand, particularly when it comes to fiction, your collective commitment has paid off in the past year, with the sales value of New Zealand published adult fiction having grown by nearly 30% over 2021. Clearly books, yes, that was a woo back there, wasn't it? Yeah, hongai te paki paki. Clearly books are still treasured by many, poetry to my ears. It was also heartening to see that there were a record number of entries in the awards this year, including a significant proportion of first-time authors in amongst both the long and short lists. Being a writer will never be an easy life. It takes years to hone your craft and a degree of steely determination from both author and publisher to bring your work to the point of publication. And yet, as anyone who has experienced a light bulb moment when reading, or who has been caught up in the universe of an author's creation, will know that great writing and great books give us, the readers, so much. As Catherine Mansfield once shared in a 1919 letter to her husband, you know the feeling that a great writer gives you? My spirit has been fed and refreshed. It has partaken of something new. To the 16 finalists, all supremely gifted New Zealand writers, thank you for allowing us to partake in something new. Whether this nomination is for your debut work or you are an old hand at this game, tonight is your night. Congratulations on being shortlisted for these awards, and thank you for all you bring to literature in New Zealand. I look forward to celebrating with you tonight. I even changed my flight so I could do so. With all of our finalists and winners, and to recognising the mastery, the mystery, and the magic that you all bring to your craft. Nō reira tātou mā, tēnā tātou katoa.
Ngā mihi nui ki a koe, Minister. Well, I'm now going to leave you in the hands of Jack Tame, our wonderful MC, and wishing all finalists and their publishers the best of luck. And again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight.
E mihi ana ki te rangi, e mihi ana ki te whenua, e mihi ana ki ngā tūpuna i te pō, e mihi ana ki ngā uri i te awātea, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ore e te iwi ko haere mai ki tēnei whakanui i ngā kōrero o Aotearoa i te tau 2023 ki te haukainga o tēnei wahi Ngāti whātua ora kei, tēnā koutou katoa. Ki Tuhi, kōrua ko Blackie, e mihi nui ana ki a kōrua, nā mihi ki a kōrua i te karakia, ki ngā kaiwhakarite o te hui, nā mihi nui ki a koutou, ki te minita, haere, kua mahana te whare i o kupu, ki ngā kaiwhakatuhi, kua taimai, karawhiua, tēnā koutou. Nā reira kia tātou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Good evening. I think we can all forgive the minister, given very quickly backstage, she pulled me aside and said, Jack, you know tomorrow's budget day, right? And I said, yeah, I know it's budget day. And she said, despite the bleak economic forecasts, despite the austere economic environment, somehow she's pulled off a multi-million-dollar boost to creative arts funding in New Zealand. I thought that's really amazing. We can forgive you this time. Personally, I love this night. I absolutely love this occasion. Welcome to the 2023 Ockham New Zealand Book Awards. It is a great privilege to share in a celebration of New Zealand's best and brightest literary talents. At a time and in a moment of collective uncertainty and change, perhaps never has the work of those acknowledged tonight been so vital in distilling, in questioning, in articulating, and in reflecting our world. As Nicola mentioned, there is some sadness here this evening. As many of you know, the New Zealand arts community lost one of its keenest champions. It was this evening last year. I remember having a great chat with Jann Medlicott, who sponsored the Top Fiction Prize at the Ockhams. I know Jann absolutely loved attending this event and celebrating Aotearoa's best writers. And although her legacy continues through her incredible generosity, I know that Jann will be missed by many people in person tonight. Let's get into it. It's a hideous night for publishers and writers. I know that. You've got the squirming feeling in your guts. You're trying to smile, you're trying to relax, and the whole time you're thinking, just put me out of my misery any which way. Our first awards of the evening are the Best First Book Awards, supported in 2023 by the Mātātuhi Foundation. They recognise a work of quality from an author for whom the entry is their first published book. We were delighted to have Mātātuhi step in this year to provide the funding for these awards, and I invite one of the Foundation's trustees, Paula Morris, to the stage to help us present them. Let's hear it for Paula. Kia ora. Now, these awards are each named for an esteemed New Zealand writer. They've played an important part in our cultural history for years now, with the oldest prize dating back to 1940. Many past recipients have gone on to have illustrious literary careers, including Janet Frame, Witiihi Maeda, Patricia Grace, and Eleanor Catton. 2023, it has to be said, was a stonking year for first books at the Ockham New Zealand Book Awards. Debut writers made up about a third of both the long list and the short list for tonight's main categories. Each Best First Book winner is going to receive a prize of $3,000 and a 12-month membership to the New Zealand Society of Authors. Writers, when we announce your name, please come up to the stage with your publisher, receive your award, and then make a short speech. So, without further ado, the first award of this evening is the 2023 E.H. McCormick Prize for General Non-Fiction in the Best First Book Awards, and it goes to Noelle McCarthy for Grant, Becoming My Mother's Daughter, published by Penguin Random House. The judges described Grand as an intimate but highly accessible memoir that explores the fragility and turbulence of the mother-daughter relationship, that is delicate and self-aware and connects with truths that unite us all. Well done, Noelle.
Okay, so the run sheet says you have a minute for this. Good luck. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody. I'm so surprised and gratified that people were able to connect with a story about drinking too much and not getting on with your mother. Thank you so much. Thank you to my brilliant publishers, Penguin Random House, especially my editors, Claire Murdoch, who believed in this book when it was a pitch at the back of a second-hand bookstore in Featherston. Thank you, Claire. Vanessa Manhire, who edited the manuscript while she was training two puppies. Louisa Cossa, who went above and beyond in ways only she knows. And the rest of the team at Penguin Random House, thank you so much. Thank you to Renee, who read these words before they were a book, whose discipline and dignity I could only hope to emulate. Ngā mihi nui ki a koe. Thank you to my family, my most important readers. I hope you're there. Daddy and Sarah. It's my sister's birthday tomorrow. She is a sexy Taurian, and I want to say happy birthday, Sarah. Thank you to my family for submitting to being written about with grace. I can't imagine, and for only caring who might play you in the film, if there ever is one. delighted that Brian Cox is out of his contract with Succession, Daddy. Thank you to my husband, John, for the idea for this. This is yours too, for a title that I had to live up to, and for paying the bills while I wrote it. Thank you to my daughter Eve, go to bed. Thank you to my people, my best friends who are here tonight, my people in Feddy, my recovery people. We are anonymous, but you know who you are. And thank you to my mother, Caroline Mary. I'm honoured to say her name. She was the beginning and the end of this story for me, and writing this book gave her back to me. So thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, Noelle. Our next prize is the 2023 Best First Book winner of the Jessie Mackay Prize for Poetry. And it goes to Kadro Muhammad for We're All Made of Lightning, published by We Are Babies Press, Tender Press. Now, Kadro's overseas at the moment and is represented tonight by her publishers Ash, David Jane and Stacey Teague. And We're All Made of Lightning, say the judges. Time, memory, dreams and reality are fluid and woven into lyrical poems with heightened sensory language and, at times, heartbreaking vulnerability and anger.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Ash and I are honoured to accept this award on behalf of Kadro, who unfortunately could not be here tonight. We are so proud of Kadro and all the work she has put into this book. I'll now hand it over to Ash to read a speech from Kadro.
Kia ora and salam. Thank you so much for this award. I wanted to first say thank you to my parents, of course, who have been such a big part of this process, even if they don't know it. I also wanted to say thank you to everyone who has read or enjoyed any part of this book. It's always surreal to know that complete strangers have connected with it in some way, and it's humbling to have my words inspire, even if in a small way. My book started off as a Google document, only a few pages long, nothing particularly special. But then a storm hit, lightning struck. It rained a lot and the pages bloomed, ideas grew and my need to speak was hard to contain. I'm thankful to the team at Tender Press for making it possible to have my book be a real physical thing one can hold. I want to thank my friends, every single one of them, but especially my friend Nusa, who created the art that appears throughout the collection and the beautiful cover that envelopes my words. I wanted to thank the writing community. Thank you for creating a space for me to share. Thank you for being so welcoming and such a vibrant group of people with ideas that continuously inspire. We are stronger together. Lastly, I wanted to leave you with a message. Keep going, keep writing, keep sharing, finish off that project, complete your story, make more art. It is always worth sharing and there will always be people hungry for your words. With all my love, Kadro. Thank you.
Okay. Next up is the Judith Binney Prize for a Best First Book of Illustrated Non-Fiction, and the 2023 winner is Crystal Lowe for Kai, Food Stories and Recipes from My Family Table. The judges call Kai a book that shines. It provides insight into te ao Māori, creating a homage to food that's both grounded in tradition and yet modern. It is the Edmonds cookbook for our time.
Tainui te waka,
Ko ruahine, ko parangia, ngā maunga, ko ōrawa, ko waipa ngā awa, ko Ngāti Kauwhata, ko Ngāti Maniapoto ngā iwi, ko Te Rata Rawa, ko Adams, ngā ingoa whānau, ko Crystal Raukawalau Aho. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I wasn't expecting this, and I wasn't expecting to be up here making a speech. And apparently I only have 1 minute, so I better rip into it. I started curating Kai about 5 years ago. And I say curating because I was also the food photographer. I am a food photographer by occupation. And I was also gathering my whānau stories because I just was compelled to capture the mauri of our whānau life of Kai. And so I spent a lot of time capturing visually my nan in her kitchen, burning the sugar for the steamed pudding and getting stories. And I wanted to create more than a cookbook. I wanted to create a food story that was authentic to our whānau. And actually, it just started off as a personal project. I was just doing this for my whānau. And then after a while, I was like, oh, I really want to share this with the world. I think the world needs to hear this. And actually, it's been my dream to create a cookbook since I was about 10 years old, when I bought my first cookbook from a garage sale, which was the Woman's Weekly Chinese Cookbook. And I was I've been very inspired to do something like this ever since. So yes, the book was dedicated to my nan and also my late brother, who unfortunately, they passed away before the book was published, but it has their very essence through it. And I'll let my nana have the final say, because if she was here, she would say, gee, what a neat. And she would be so proud. Tēnā koutou.
Ka pai, Crystal, thank you. It is time for our final Best First Book Award for 2023 at the Ockham New Zealand Book Awards. And this award goes to the winner of the Hubert Church Prize for Fiction. The 2023 winner is Anthony Lapwood for Home Theatre. Published by Te Herenga Waka University Press. The judges described this collection of interlinked short stories as unfailingly inventive, with strong characterization and genuine voice, at once humane and warm, and cerebral and challenging.
Golly. Ngamihi nui kia koutou, particularly thanks to the judges and the awards team and the Mātātuhi Foundation. I just really want to acknowledge Coco Solid as well and her incredible novel. It's a fantastic read, and it's been amazing being in this category with you. It's been a pleasure. I need to obviously thank the entire team at my publisher, Te Herenga Waka University Press, in particular Fergus and Craig and Tay and formerly Kirsten. And a special thank you to my fantastic editor, Jasmine. And thank you to everyone else who has helped shape home theatre over the 5 or 6 years it took to sort of cobble together. It's one of the benefits of a short story collection. You can just kind of chip away as you please. And especially thank you to my wonderful partner, Paul, for everything pretty much, but especially for helping create the time and space to allow for my writing to happen. So thanks everyone, have a good night.
Congratulations, Anthony. Congratulations to all of our Best First Book Award winners, and thank you very much to the Mātātuhi Foundation and to trustee Paula Morris. Right, it is time for the main awards this evening. The way this is going to work is that for each of the 4 different categories, I'm going to invite the shortlisted finalists to come up on stage. They're each going to take a turn reading us from their respective works, reading to us from their respective works. Afterwards, we'll invite the convener of judges to come up on stage and present the awards to the winners. So, the General Non-Fiction Award is given every year to a book that contributes outstanding knowledge and insightful truths to our literary and societal landscape through storytelling, history, biography, memoir, personal essay and more. This year's winner will receive a prize of $12,000. So please welcome the 2023 finalists to the stage as I introduce them. First up, Melinda Webber and Te Kapua O'Connor for A Fire in the Belly of Hine Amaru, a collection of narratives about Te Tai Tokiro Tupuna, published by Auckland University Press. Kia ora kōrua. Next up, Paul Diamond for Downfall, the Destruction of Charles Mackay, published by Massey University Press. Noelle McCarthy for Grand, Becoming My Mother's Daughter, published by Penguin Random House. And Ned Fletcher for the English text of the Treaty of Waitangi, published by Bridget Williams Books. So as I say, we are going to hear from each of the finalists now, beginning with Melinda and Te Kapua.
Tēnā tātou e te whare, i te tuatahi ka tōaitia e au ngā mihi kia koutou o Ngāti Whātua, nā koutou te mihi whakatau I tuku I te pōnei, hei whakatau I a tātou katoa, nō reira, tēnā koe, tēnā kōrua. E kore e mō nehu te pūmahara ki ngā momo rangatira o nehe rā, nā rātou nei toro te nuku roa o te moana nui a kiwa me papatu anuku. Ko ngā tohu o rātou tapu ai I kākahutia ki rongi I te mata o te whenua, he taonga, he tapu. Time will not dim the memory of the special class of rangatira of the past, who braved the wide expanse of ocean and land. Their footprints are scattered over the surface of the earth, treasured and sacred. Through this research, we have immersed ourselves in rich stories like Hine Amaru's and been taken to a te taitokero of long ago. We were transported to sit side by side with Nuku Tawhiti in the waka haurua ngā toki mata whaurua, observing the stars that guided our people from Hawaii to Te Hokianga Nui a Kupe. We travelled with our Aotearoa's 13 taniwha sons, whose curiosity created the many rivers that flow into Hokianga today. We watched with bated breath as Tūmatahina wove a rope long enough to reach from a besieged Murimotu to the mainland, saving his people from capture or death. These names were known to us, but the ingenuity of their deeds was largely unknown. We had been taught that our ancestors drifted here and washed up on these shores emaciated and unwell. We were told that the blood that ran through our ancestors' veins instilled an unquenchable thirst for war. We listened to stories of ancestors who were said to have sold their lands for a petty sum. We were supposed to acquiesce, to grow quiet and keep our eyes on the ground. But our ancestors wouldn't let us. They wouldn't allow us to listen to lies, hear tales of defeat, or feel ashamed to be Māori. Nō reira, tēnā tātou e te whare. Kia ora.
Tēnā tātou. Ina ahutango te wā. Prologue, Death in Berlin. About 20 minutes before midnight, a taxi makes its way down Neukölln's long main street, Hermannstrasse, heading into a section of Berlin cordoned off because of fighting between police and communist protesters. Except for a few permitted people, no traffic, not even bicycles, is allowed on the normally busy street, which is eerily quiet, apart from the recurring sound of gunshots. The streetlights have been shot out during the fighting, so unless a police searchlight illuminates a building, it is also darker than usual. Barricades made up of cobblestones, broken concrete, wood and other debris mark the battle lines between police and protesters. When it can go no further along Hermannstrasse because of the barricades, the taxi turns into a side street. Herfurthstrasse, stopping just before a set of police barricades. A man gets out. He is tall, in his early 50s, with greying hair and a prominent nose. He's wearing spectacles with dark horn rims, a soft grey hat, and a small angular wristwatch with a narrow strap. He carries a large format foreign newspaper. The man doffs his hat and introduces himself to the police, who tell him to go away. When the taxi driver gets out of the car to demand payment, he too is ordered to leave. After his requests to go beyond the barricades are rebuffed, the man continues along Herfurthstrasse and walks around the block, re-emerging on Hermannstrasse. By now, he's been joined by several other people. Suddenly, police posted in doorways start yelling, "Clear the streets, go into the houses, go round the corner." Others surrounding the man move into a doorway, but he stands in front of the windows of the Herschewitz clothing shop on the corner just before the barricade. Even as shooting starts in the street, the man remains immobile. A shot goes into the glass behind him, followed by several others that hit other windows. He continues to stand there. A shot from a police sniper on the opposite corner, about 110 metres away, hits him. He lurches forward, then convulses and falls back. After a few minutes, the shooting ends and a police medical officer rushes to the man who is lying on his back, his head towards Hermannstrasse. At first, no external wounds are obvious, but when the officer turns him onto his stomach and draws his coat and waistcoat over his head, he sees a large patch of blood on the man's back. His pupils are glassy and there is no pulse. He is dead. Other police summon a taxi driver who's also seen what happened. With difficulty, they put the man into the car, but as it is about to drive off, an ambulance arrives and the body is put on a stretcher and taken to the mortuary at Bucko Hospital. At this stage, all the police know is that the man is a journalist and that his name is Charles Mackie. They do not know that he is the former mayor of a town in New Zealand called Whanganui and a distinguished lawyer, and that he lost his family, his career and his reputation because of another shooting nearly a decade before. Kia ora.
This is a piece I wrote before I knew that Grand was a book. Chapter 1. When I was very small, I loved wolves, she told me. I used to go to bed with one under my pillow, couldn't fall asleep without him. The wolf in Eve's Little Red Riding Hood book has a big bushy tail and a tweed jacket with a knife and fork in his top pocket. All the better to eat you with, madam. We got a different version of the story out of the library recently, a beautifully illustrated one where nobody rescues Red Riding Hood at the end. She stays in the wolf's belly. Eve took it in her stride, but I was haunted. Mammy was a werewolf. It only took one sip of drink to change her. The first mouthful of the first pint of carling, all the evil came out dancing. Her face would change, but subtly. Her eyes would brighten and her nose would lengthen. Everything about her became wilder and sharper and more alert. That was when the barman would need to watch himself. It took some of them a while to realise it, like the place she got thrown out of on Blarney Street for screaming that her glass was dirty. The miracle was she never ran out of bars or taxi drivers, even as she ate up everyone who crossed her. They'd reach their limits sometimes, call in reinforcements, rattled by her savagery. She'd sit in the front seat, us in the back in our school uniforms, parked up outside the guard station, a glass of bright green in her hand still, like we were at a cocktail party. Vodka and a dash of lime cordial. Even the guards didn't know what to do with her. A grandiose drunk baiting her taxi driver, refusing to pay him because he wasn't deferential enough, insulted her somehow, her children in the back seat, on a Tuesday. The sergeant would just tell the driver to take us home, ask my father for some money.
Tēnā tātou katoa. Just a little introduction to my reading, if I can. My book's about the English text of the Treaty of Waitangi and what it meant to those who put it together on the British side. Those most involved were the dutiful but unimaginative William Hobson, the outstanding British public servant James Stephen, who in many respects is the hero of my book, and James Busby, the British resident at Waitangi in the 1830s. When I started my research, I expected that Busby was going to be the principal author of the treaty. While he certainly had flashes of creativity, ultimately I found him quite exasperating. Here's my conclusion about him. If Hobson was a man who followed orders, Busby was not. His overriding concern was with his own career and standing. He was a man of decided opinions, which were dogmatically maintained even in the face of contrary directions. He was constitutionally unable to acknowledge mistakes or give credit to others. He was quick to feel slighted and held furious grudges. Those whom he resented were often oblivious to having given offence, or were later bemused to discover they had. Because Busby was so self-preoccupied, he tended to imagine that people who offended him were scheming against him. These included senior officials, in particular Governor Richard Burke, who are unlikely to have given him much thought. Their rejection of his proposals or criticisms of his actions are explicable without attributing to them, as Busby did, any personal animosity, much less any continuing vendetta against him. Busby delighted in settling scores and being proved right, although these triumphs were often in his own mind only. He saw his own hand in decisions made in London, even though there was no evidence for this. Throughout his residency, Busby remained optimistic that his latest dispatch would convince the Colonial Office to agree with his views and that vindication would be received by the next mail. In his optimistic periods, Busby was capable of spurts of creativity and industry, but when the mail dashed his hopes, he often plunged into rage, sometimes expressed in intemperate letters to Sydney and London, and then into long periods of moody inactivity. Thank you.
Kia ora, guys. You can all stand up, make your way down the stairs and get comfortable if that's okay. To announce the winner for the General Non-Fiction Award, the 2023 Ockham New Zealand Book Awards. Please now welcome convener of the General Non-Fiction Judges, Anna Rafferty Connell, to the stage to announce the winner, and Gretchen LaRoche, who's the Senior Manager of Arts Development at Creative New Zealand Toi Aotearoa, to present the award.
Tēnā koe, Jack. Ngā mihi o te ahia hi pō kia koutou katoa, kia ora. This category frequently inspires remarks about the daunting task of comparing genres that include works of scholarship, historical writing, memoir, autobiography, and essay. But I would like to speak to the commonalities shared by the books on the shortlist. All contribute something new and something lasting, whether it be to our understanding of Aotearoa, past and present, or to our understanding of ourselves. All exhibit a literary deftness through structure, innovation in form, and mastery of language. All are exceptionally well presented and produced, Discerning editing and design can make all the difference. Importantly, all of this made them good reads that could and should be widely read. Thank you to my fellow judges, Alison Jones and Te Maire Tau, for sharing the task of reading, discussing and judging the 60 books submitted in this category. Our discussions of our enduring literary merit, innovation, presentation and accessibility created clear totems to keep coming back to as we narrowed the pile down. Congratulations to all the writers who entered, made the long list and the short list, and to the publishers, editors and designers involved. I am pleased to announce that the winner of the General Non-Fiction Award is Ned Fletcher for the English text of the Treaty of Waitangi.
The judges wrote the English text of the Treaty of Waitangi is a meticulously constructed work of scholarship that provides surprising and essential analysis of te tiriti. It will shift and inform debates about the intentions of those who constructed and signed the treaty and how we interpret it today. Though it's weighty, Ned Fletcher's book leads readers through a series of clear and well-evidenced hypotheses. It provides colourful and necessary detail about the characters and context involved in the creation of the English text of Aotearoa's founding document. Fletcher's comprehensive examination sheds new light on the document's implications and contributes fresh thinking to what remains a very live conversation for all of us that call this country home. Congratulations, Ned.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jack. Tēnā tātou katoa. Amazing. Right up to the second that the book went off to the printers, I was never sure it would be published. I was pretty confident no one would buy it, let alone read it. And never in my wildest dreams in a field of such great and engaging books was I going to win this prize. There are many people to thank, too many people to thank, so I'm just going to limit myself to 4 groups of people. First, my family, who encouraged and supported me to do the PhD, which became the book. So in my immediate family, that's my parents, Sian and Hugh, my wife, Natalie, and my children, better not forget their names, Matilda, Harriet, and Henry, who are all here tonight. They never complained, even though the project dragged on and on and on. When the book was finally published 15 years after the PhD started, I think they were more excited and relieved than I was. Second, my University of Auckland PhD supervisors who shared the first and hardest part of the journey. Emeritus Professor David Williams, who I think is here, Associate Professor Ruth Barton, and the late, great Professor Michael Taggart. Without their guidance and without their enthusiasm for the topic, there would be no book. Third, to my publisher, Bridget William Books. This is my first book. I was completely naive about what is involved in producing one. I'm so grateful to Bridget and to Tom Rennie for believing in the book as a big piece of research and writing, and for putting a superb editor on it in Nancy Schwarbrook. Thanks to Laura Koziol, the production editor, Katrina Duncan, who's here tonight for the design, loving that Caslin font, Katrina, Neil Partington for the striking dictionary-esque cover, Lee Slater for the massive index, and Luke Finnegan with the bright trousers for all the publicity work. Such a wonderful team to watch in action and be associated with. And finally, a big thank you to the New Zealand Book Awards Trust, the judges and all the sponsors, especially Creative New Zealand, which also helped with the funding of the book, and Ockham Residential, a beacon of hope in Auckland's development scene, as well as being great supporters of writers and publishers. I'm very grateful to everyone who helped to realise this book. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Ned. Thank you very much to Anna and Gretchen. We now come to the celebration of our poets. This year, the shortlist is positively bustling with new talent. 3 out of the 4 books we will be featuring tonight are first collections. New Zealand poetry's in bold health right now, with an exciting range of new voices emerging on the scene every year. Tonight's winner will receive a prize of $12,000. So please welcome to the stage 2 of our 2023 Mary and Peter Biggs Award for Poetry finalists. You'll meet the other 2 via the big screen. They're overseas at the moment. But our finalists are Alice Tupunga Somerville for Always Italicise How to Write While Colonised. Joanna Cho for People Person, published by Te Herenga University Press. Anahira Maire Gildia for Sedition, published by Tareheke, Bush Lawyer. And Kadro Mohammed for We're All Made of Lightning, published by We Are Babies Press, Tender Press. Like I say, 2 of the finalists here this evening are beaming in from overseas. So we will begin with a reading from Alice Tupunga Somerville, who has sent us this from Canada.
2. It's too hot on my porch today. Toronto sun, which was gently diluted in winter months, is burning a hole in the pocket of the day, pressing into my black clothes. It's too bright to read Indigenous theory off white paper here. It's too colonial in my country today. 4 sentences, 3 Māori, 2 jail terms, 1 judge, no justice. A budget which catches the crumbs as they fall off the table, piling them on laden plates rather than letting them fall like gentle rain from heaven to those who have been made to depend upon them. It's too distracting in my body today. Obsessed and smiling, I try to keep focus. Such depth of connection, such delicate, urgent intimacy, such hope feels inappropriate in these too hot, too colonial times. Pick up coffee cup and printed pages. Open the screen door. Walk back inside. My eyes take longer to arrive than the rest of me. They are still adjusted for the brightness outside. I bump into things, blind while I wait for my whole self to arrive, and realize this is the only worthwhile way to proceed anyway. All of me, all at once. Anger, frustration, cynicism, hope. And in the center, as well as the outer reaches, love. Kia ora.
Pull over, I'll drive. I try to be chill for you. I started saying yeah instead of you. Sent texts without a second glance. Substituted baking soda for powder, and the banana loaf was a crowd favourite. Baggy tees, sandy feet, avocados went through as brown onions, and I started being late for meetings. I try to be chill for you, leaving windows open at night, taking one for the road, letting the mail pile up till the snails got fat. Cassette tapes, once unwound, are hard to rewind. I try to be chill, I really did. I assembled tongue and cheek on the Scrabble board before suggesting we go op shopping. You never pitched in for gas, but that was all good, because money creates hierarchies, accentuates the unimportant things, like shoes, and you only liked that on the basketball courts. My Spotify algorithms changed. I started reading soft-cover books in the bath. The jug boiled and the water cooled. I try to be chill for you and for me. I try to be chill, but at the gig I scoped out the exit, just in case, and you sculled your beer and turned, because there was nothing left to say. The next day we walked around town and noticed the loop pedal at the busker's feet. We got hungry, we got food. I knew this would be our last fish and chips. So we ate in the park. The sun went down.
Tēnā rā tātou katoa, I te tuatahi, me tāpiri aku mihi ki ngā mihi kua mihia, tēnei te tupau o te mahunga, kia mana whenua, kei te mihi, kei te mihi. This poem is called Taonga. When I was 10, I was obsessed with buried treasure. Not the pirate kind with X marks the spot, but the archaeology kind that tells the story of a people. I wanted to bury a time capsule with letters inside it that would say all my loves and hopes and grandiose ideas for the world. I wanted to find the longest lasting case, one that time could not erode, one that could withstand eons of churning below the topsoil. Perhaps plastic was the right choice, but at 10, I assumed metal, a cylinder, a discharged artillery shell with a watertight seal would carry me. I determined it would contain deep truth. It would reveal sadness like no other child had yet been articulate enough to share. It would speak of loss, a grief impossible for a 10-year-old at the beginning of the 8th decade in the century of human acceleration and innovation and greed. I would not stumble over the telling of harshness in my critique of wretched humanity, but nor in the rendering of a blossom, the skin of its petals silken with my morning breath. I would describe how the tide stretches back its lips further and further to meet the fullness of the moon, and in summer, how pippies sprout in jagged teeth from that same open mouth. I would bury my time capsule there, in the moving whenua, where barnacles could decorate it and salt crystals could form on its surfaces, and where only those who still knew how to dig for words could find it. Kia ora.
And we'll hear from Kadro Muhammad.
Pink lakes. All they know is the familiar sight of unturned stomachs, sand-caked faces, oversized bloated bellies, jet-black eyes, sticky lashes, tinted curls with dust caught in between, broken tomato fields, houses made of earth, a heat that rises slowly with an intensity that distorts the footprints and turns leaves into coffee powder and dehydrated cow deers where lakes used to be. Even now, the feeling of emptiness sticks to me, like the skeleton of wisteria on the inside of my veranda in the winter, like the deep brown undertones of my skin. If only Baba could tell them that the earth that once covered our home gave birth to flower fields, an entire forest that could swallow science whole, gravity-defying vines with pepper growing on the ends, that the sky only dances for us, leading us through oceans, the long-winded spine of our coast and capsized ships. If only they knew, the kingdom that once ruled this rich and vibrant land has remnants scattered along the earth, feeding the mouths of goats that carry stars in their bellies and oud string in their U-shaped shoes. If only they could land on the shores of pink lakes, baobab silhouettes, and lion claws.
Kia ora koutou, that was fantastic. Let's welcome to the stage the convener of judges for poetry, Diane Brown, to announce the winner, and she's accompanied by very generous sponsors Mary and Peter Biggs, who will present the award.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Reading the 45 books of poetry published in New Zealand in 2022 was challenging, engaging, and ultimately rewarding as they explored the turbulent events of the past few years. As judges, we despaired when we couldn't include more books on the long list, and despaired again when we had to narrow down 10 to 4. It was remarkable to have 3 first books in the final 4, and to see new publishers. Congratulations to the 4 finalists who all portrayed a precarious world and posited urgent questions which aroused our imagination and demanded we listen. I wish to thank my fellow judges, Siri Barford and Gregory Khan, for their gracious contributions to our many debates. I am delighted to announce that the winner of the Mary and Peter Biggs Award for Poetry is Alice Tipunga Somerville for Always Italicized. How to write by colonised.
The judges wrote Alice Tipunga Somerville's collection, Always Italicise How to Write While Colonised. Voyages out like a waka seeking new ground, visiting 4 areas of life: language in Braille, identity in invisible ink, work in mahi, and love in aroha. Readers are challenged but crucially invited in to accept that challenge and reach a new understanding of what it is to be a Māori woman, scholar, mother and wife in 2022, encountering and navigating uncomfortable and hostile spaces. Always Italicise shines for its finely crafted, poetically fluent and witty explorations of racism, colonisation, class, language and relationships. A fine collection establishing and marking a new place to stand. And Alice is represented tonight by her publisher Sam Elworthy and her nephew Mātātuhi Somerville. Kia ora.
Ko te mihi tuatai ki ngā mana whenua o Ngāti Whātua. Ko te mihi tuarua ki a koutou ko heke mai tēnei pō, ngā kaituhi, ngā whānau me ngā hoa. Tēnā rā koutou katoa. Kia ora, my name is Mātātuhi Somerville. I am here representing my auntie Alice Somerville. I would firstly like to thank Auckland University Press for the support and everyone that has come out tonight. It's great. It's great to see the amount of diversity up on the stage tonight. Yeah, that's really cool. And to my auntie that's at home from the whānau, we're so proud of you. I know that you're probably crying at the most, so and yeah, we're so proud of you, we love you, and we miss you a lot. Tēnā kia ora.
Congratulations, Alice, and thank you very much, Matu. Thank you as well to Diane, Mary and Peter. The Booksellers Aotearoa New Zealand Award for Illustrated Non-Fiction recognises books that marry outstanding writing with excellent visual content, design and production values, resulting in objects of beauty as well as of cultural significance. This year's winner will receive a prize of $12,000. So please welcome the 2023 finalists to the stage. First up, Nick Bollinger for Jumping Sundays, The Rise and Fall of the Counterculture in Aotearoa, New Zealand, published by Auckland University Press. Sarah Farrer, Jill Trevelyan and Nina Tonga for Robin White, Something is Happening Here, published by Te Papa Press and Auckland Art Gallery, Toi o Tāmaki. Robert Venel for Secrets of the Sea, the story of New Zealand's native sea creatures, published by HarperCollins. And Rachel Buchanan for Te Motu Nui Epa, published by Bridget Williams Books. You know how this works. We will hear a reading from each of the shortlisted books, accompanied by images up here. So please welcome our first writer, Nick Bollinger.
I'll start at the beginning. On a Sunday afternoon in the spring of 1969, thousands of people defied Auckland city bylaws and came to party in Albert Park. A rock band played on the rotunda. Some people held hands, some danced alone. Some sat under trees with guitars, flutes and bongos and made music of their own. They wore caftans, ponchos and leather-fringed jerkins, floppy hats, headbands, beads and flowers. Poetry and political diatribes were delivered from a podium, improvised from an upturned tea chest. There were bikies, balloons, bubbles, sack races and a lolly scramble, lots of dogs and a pet possum. Someone brought a canoe and paddled it around the fountain until it capsized. As the afternoon wore on, there were joss sticks, skyrockets, and what some will have recognised as the musky smell of marijuana. It wasn't the first gathering of this kind in New Zealand, but it was, up to this point, easily the biggest. Here, on a seemingly vast scale, people who had been variously labelled as hippies, freaks, weirdies, radicals and dropouts were able to see and celebrate with a great many others who looked and acted a lot like they did. For those watching from the sidelines or looking at a newspaper photo in the days that followed, the effect was quite the opposite. The revellers were a strange group whose lives, looks, beliefs and aspirations were evidently not only very different from their own, but also a challenge to post-war New Zealand's social norms. For the rest of that Sunday, and every other Sunday that year, the crowds would gather there. There was no conventional advertising, no notices in the paper or jingles on the radio, just word of mouth and a few Gestetner-printed flyers distributed around the streets. With each weekend, the numbers grew, while police stood by with the onlookers. Among the guardians of law and order, the consensus seemed to be that youth rebellion would be reluctantly tolerated, as long as it was confined to Sunday afternoons.
Kia ora koutou. Arriving at Elam School of Fine Arts early in 1965, Robin felt a keen sense of anticipation. I can remember walking in there that first day and thinking, finally, here's a bunch of people I can relate to. After the discipline of boarding school, Elam was a revelation. We weren't treated like kids, Robin recalls. The lecturers didn't have roll calls. We had a 1-hour lecture on art history on Friday afternoon, and that was the only academic exercise. The rest of the time we spent in the studio. In her first year, she was introduced to different disciplines: design, printmaking, painting, sculpture, and photography. But by her second year, she had decided where to specialise. I was very clear in my mind about the reason. It was because painting was the most mysterious and difficult thing that I had ever encountered. I mean, how do you choose where to put a line, what colour, and what even to say? It seemed so difficult to grasp. I figured it would take a lifetime. Students had to be self-reliant. There was little technical tuition, which Robin found frustrating. You were told, get that book, read it, figure it out. There were no lessons on preparing canvases, stretching them, nothing like that. What was valuable, however, was working in the presence of senior artists such as Colin McCann and Garth Tapper and observing their dedication and determination. It was McCann, charismatic, intense, always challenging himself in his own art, who made the deepest impression on Robin. He was a controversial figure at the school. Some staff had opposed his appointment in 1964, citing his lack of formal qualifications, but his reputation as a painter had secured the role. His exhibitions at the new Barry Lett galleries were eagerly anticipated. As Robin noted, there was a real buzz and excitement. It was standing room only. McCann's mantra was, "We are all students," and his style of teaching was famously informal. He would squat on the floor, a wiry, bird-like figure, jabbing a cigarette in the air to make a point. Robin recalled an encounter early in her second year. We all collected in the big painting studio, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, waiting for our lecturer to come and tell us what to do. In walks McCann and says, "Oh, so you want to be painters, do you? Well, paint then." He said he'd see us in a couple of weeks, and he walked out. It didn't suit some, but for those of us who wanted to get on with it, it was the best thing we could have heard. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Stoked to be here. Thank you so much for the nomination. This is a section from the introduction to the book. The first people to arrive in Aotearoa were truly tangata moana, people of the sea. For thousands of years, Polynesians had travelled across the waves, discovering all of the tiny islands in the vast Pacific Ocean. But around 750 years ago, a small group of explorers did something completely different. They turned south, leaving behind the warm tropical seas and sailing into the unknown. There was no telling what they might find, and so they used the sea as their guide, reading meaning from the waves and winds, and deciphering instructions from the movements of birds, fish, and whales. Finally, they spotted it, stretching out like a long white cloud on the horizon, Aotearoa, the last major landmass in the world to be discovered by people. For these ocean explorers, their first introduction to Aotearoa would undoubtedly have been through its sea creatures. The oceans surrounding these islands were bursting with fish and shellfish, never before touched by human hands. Out at sea, there were unbroken streams of snapper stretching across the horizon, while kahawai leapt into the air, as if the ocean had become too crowded for them. As the explorers ventured closer to land, coastlines sparkled with shiny green mussels, and crayfish antlers stuck out of the water, waving at the explorers as they passed by. And as they reached the shore and leapt off their waka in excitement, the seafloor would have erupted with life, flounder speeding away in every direction, startled scallops taking off like a flock of birds, and giant tohiroa digging themselves into the sand with their tongues. In the crystal-clear estuaries, there were vast cockle gardens patrolled by sentinels of stingray, and every river bend was guarded by monstrous eels, like tree trunks that had fallen into the water and come to life. But while the oceans contained an abundance of food, it wasn't enough to simply throw out a net and hope for the best. If people were to survive in Aotearoa, they would need to understand everything they could about the fish and shellfish that lived here. As the new arrivals carefully observed the natural world, the sea slowly began to reveal its secrets. Got it.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi o te wānei kia koutou. I mihi te Ngāti Whātua as the mana whenua of the land on which we meet. I pay my respect to your old people and to you, and thank you for the welcome tonight. Lost property. The storage rooms at Sotheby's were gloomy, glorified cupboards. The Epa did not want to be curled up in a cupboard or a wardrobe or a crate anymore. They wanted to face Taranaki again. They wanted the wind on their skin like it was before. Failing that, they wanted to slip into the swamp, their whare moi, and have another snooze. Even Ortiz's chateau was better than this place, the auction room, a shop That's all it was, a great big useless shop, the shrunken world of shelf, cupboard, shop, catalogue and collector. Those silly piddling little white gloves the auctioneers wore, the Epa longed for the touch of a familiar hand and the sound of words from home, all those luxurious syllables. Now that the English auction was off, the English courts were on. The lawyers had been in for a look. Every story had to stand on the back of another story. It was like climbing a tree made from words. They called the stories cases. The lawyers snapped the cases open, rummaged around and found the words they were looking for: treasure trove, historical object, antiquity, forfeiture, seizure, national heritage. Her Majesty the Queen is the owner and entitled to possession of the valuable Māori artefact. The first story of the courts was about the crown, but no one wanted to mention the problems with that yet. Taranaki had a crown and a cloak, a mantle of clouds. The epa came from the time before, when the only sovereign in Taranaki was Taranaki, His Majesty. Pretty bloody obvious. Ocean, decent chunk of green land, big white peak, all on his lonesome. No doubt about who was boss. The epa itched. They wanted to come home. They got themselves on TV. They'd sent a message. Had anyone tuned in? January 1979, February 1979, March, the sun shone in Taranaki, but in London there was sleet and the curtains fell early on the days.
Kia ora koutou, thank you very much for that enticing glimpse inside this year's illustrated non-fiction books, and congratulations to the shortlisted finalists. Please welcome the convener of the illustrated non-fiction judges, Jared Davidson, to announce the winner. He's joined by Penny Whitty, who's the chair of Booksellers Aotearoa, New Zealand, to present the award.
Tēnā rā koutou kura iki mai, nā mihi nui kia koutou. Judges Stephen Stalin, Anna Marie White and I fear to be overwhelmed by legions of coffee table books marching into our lives. However, this was quickly dashed as boxes of high-quality titles arrived on our doorsteps. Māori histories, Māori and Pacifica art, ecology and the extra-human environment, food sovereignty, autism. A range of compelling topics from 19 publishers, as well as a handful of quality self-published books, are signs of a confident moment in book production. The number of Māori and Pacifica authors is especially exciting. Congratulations to all of the writers, publishers, designers, and assistants who made this year's submission so rich and diverse. Our mini book club was thrilled to read the 33 books in our category, perhaps a little too thrilled, for we devoured the books in record time. We were looking for wonder and we found it among a very strong field. But it was clear which of the books demonstrated excellence in terms of design and production, as well as topicality and importance. And in the words of my fellow judges, they were just cool. So with that in mind, I'm pleased to announce that the winner of the Booksellers Aotearoa New Zealand Award for Illustrated Non-Fiction is Nick Bollinger for Jumping Sundays.
The judges wrote with its homage to the look and feel of a countercultural tract. Jumping Sundays is a triumph of production and design. The cover alone is one of the best of the year and signals the visual excellence that follows. Vibrant end papers, distinctive typography, and bountiful images on an appropriately uncoated stock. Yet, Jumping Sundays is more than just a well-designed book. Drawing on archival research and rich personal narratives, Nick Bollinger has written a compelling account of an epoch-making period, linking international trends to the local context in a purposeful yet playful way. A joy to read and to hold. Jumping Sundays is a fantastic example of scholarship, creativity, and craft. Congratulations.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, thanks first to the judges for this, incredible acknowledgement. Thanks to Sam, AUP, for taking this on. Illustrated non-fiction. Well, it wouldn't be what it is without the photographers. I was so fortunate to have the generosity of people like the magnificent John Miller, the great Gil Hanley, the late great Ans Westra, all of whom were so generous and opened up their archives. And I'd get calls from John saying, I've found another photo that might be useful for the story. So all in all, they saved me a lot of words. But when it came to the words that that did end up on the page, I had the immeasurable help and support of just the best editor, Jane Parkin. I'd also like to thank the Stout Research Centre and the Copyright Licensing New Zealand. Books like this wouldn't get written without grants. And thanks to Kathy, who put up with us for longer than anyone else. Thank you all.
Congratulations, Nick, and thank you, Jared and Penny. The final award of the evening is in memory of a wonderfully generous benefactor who loved fiction and wanted to create an award specifically celebrating our novelists and short story writers. The Jann Medlicott Acorn Prize for Fiction now stands at $64,000. Yeah, it's the country's richest fiction writing prize, and this year's shortlist features 4 extraordinary novels that bring to life contemporary and historical New Zealand society, gritty, thrilling and inventive. Please welcome to the stage the 2023 finalists. First up, Michael Bennett for Better the Blood, published by Simon & Schuster. Monty Suter for Kāwai, For Such a Time as This, published by Bateman Books. Christina Sanders for Mrs. Jewel and the Wreck of the General Grant, published by the Cuba Press. And Catherine Chidgey for The Axeman's Carnival, published by Te Herenga Waka University Press. Michael, would you like to go first and share with us a reading?
Kia ora koutou, namihi tu Ngāti Whātua e mana whenua, tēnei te mihi nui kia koutou. I'm reading from chapter 15 in the middle of the book, and Jack warned us to bring our reading glasses. I didn't, so good luck all of us. As she watches the footage, Hannah thinks back to the phone call. The voice on the other end of the phone was articulate, educated. His voice was like some of her uncles, proud men who spoke English better than the English, men who lived in both worlds, Māori and Pākehā, effortlessly comfortable. Does that not shame you, detective, the voice said. You should be fucking ashamed, Mum, her daughter said. Almost the same words from a killer and from her daughter. Shame. Yeah, Hannah felt shame after Mount Suffolk. More than that, what happened on the maunga that day changed her. She was dragged through the mud, her face on every television screen, her cousins talking about her behind her back. It broke a part of her, and if she was really honest, it broke her relationship with Jay. We just have to move on, he told her. We have jobs to do, we have to put our heads down. Carry on, we need to keep moving forward, as if there was ever a we in it.
Jay's face wasn't on the television screen. In newspapers, the public image of the heavy-handed police tactics brought to bear on peaceful Māori protesters. Jay wasn't there, and even if he had been, there would have been a profound difference: skin tone. He wasn't the colour of the people at the protest. Hana was. She thought about quitting the cops. She thought about it long and hard, just walking away. That would be the easy answer, but it was the wrong answer. For Hana, being a cop wasn't just a job. It was all she'd ever wanted to do. The fearless young woman in high school scrambling down the bank to save the old drunk who'd crashed his car. But then the job you were born to do damages you. It damages you deep. But because it's destiny, because there's nothing else on earth you can imagine being, you find a way to live with the damage. You find a way to live with being broken. You find a way to live with the shame.
Ka ti praki nei rata me ki a koe koro ko Ngāti Whātua I tuku ngā whakamoe me te miha no ki a koe tiaki, nā I whakatau mai nei a tātou. Suddenly I heard creaking on the veranda and the sound of chanting. The old man must have company. I went over and peered out the front door. No one there. Then I heard the strange intoning again, deep and distant. It sounded like Māori, but I couldn't be sure. Whatever it was, it was unsettling. Then I heard, ki te mateau. I recognised that much. Should I die? I felt goosebumps all over my arms. I squeezed my eyes shut and slowly counted to 3. When I opened my eyes again, I still saw no one. I could still hear the disembodied voice, but it was growing fainter. The hairs on the back of my neck began to bristle. The sound seemed to be coming from beyond the stone memorial and was trailing off towards the hill cemetery. It dwindled to nothing, and there was silence. I stood at the edge of the veranda, feeling bewildered. Was I dreaming? Haramai, e noho. Come and sit down. The crower's words brought me back. I made my way back inside, repeating the words that I thought I'd heard. The old man glanced at me with a look of fleeting surprise. Ki te pararawa ho koe te aha. What's that you're mumbling? I heard some voices outside. E, ko tawa anake ke konei. There's only us here. Perhaps I was imagining things. It sounded so real. What did you hear? Ki te mateo. The crower's eyes widened and fixed directly on mine. Ko wei ka mōhio. Te rā pēr. Ka pērā tonu I te wā, kei konei koe. Who knows? You might be here for such a time as this. But before I had the chance to analyse his cryptic words, the crower began his story, which transported me to another place and time.
Just deciding whether I need glasses or not. Yes, I do. This is a shipwreck story, and this is when they're washed ashore. I peeled myself from the wet sand and sat up with my arms wrapped around my knees. My eyes were thick with salt, and I blinked through a haze of tiny flies that circled my head. My fingers ran across cuts dragged down my face, washed clean in seawater, numb. In the pale light, shapes formed into people. Then they moved, and I lost them. I felt hard and empty as a shell. I concentrated, willed breath into my body, willed my heart to beat. I put my mind to my extremities, and I raised a finger, tapped a foot. Slowly, I turned my head. I counted 14 men on the beach, sailors, miners. Some were barefoot and some without shirt or jacket, as if they'd been surprised by the disaster, pulled from sleep without time to dress properly, white-chested as gulls. I didn't know what type of men they might be, violent or mad, ungodly, evil. How could I tell? They had stopped moving now and dropped their hands onto their knees, heads slumped. It looked like relief. As if they had reached the end of their troubles, as if they had arrived somewhere. But there was nothing. In this bleak place, I knew our troubles were just beginning. We hadn't arrived anywhere. We were castaways. Mr. Brown, our only officer, stood at the edge of the harbour, disengaged from the others. His hands hung at his side, empty. He was a big man, but he was made small by the sea.
I wanted the membranous press of the egg. I wanted back in my shell. In my shell, I understood my own dimensions, how I curled leg to breast and beak to wing, how I filled the wide world. There I heard my mother talking about the sun and the wind, which could parch us and pummel us, and I felt her tidying the nest, cushioning every corner, pushing away sharpnesses that might hurt a hatchling. I heard the songs of my flock too, and when they all sang at once, I felt the notes blood deep. At the tip of my beak, a bony spike, an egg tooth aimed at the blunt end of the shell. My sister and my brothers spoke to me from within their speckled planets, telling me to let in the air, to take my first breath in the soft, close dark, so that I would be ready. I listened to their hammering, all three of them breaking stars in the sky. Now, I asked. Now, they answered, and I began to shift my body, to move as they too were moving. In the slippery box, I lay like a stone, and she touched me to check if I had died. Then she cupped me under her hand, and when I was warm again, I began to beg. Whatever she brought me in her little syringes, minced and mashed and measured, I swallowed. I was a hole of hunger, and I shouldn't have survived, but she stroked my spine with a single fingertip and said, "What shall we call you?" Back then, I did not know light and could not know light, and I thought, when I opened my eyes, that her hand was my mother. A day or two later, I saw her hair as feathers, black against the white of her temples and shoulders and neck, and I knew that she loved me.
Thank you, and congratulations to Michael, Monty, Christina, and Catherine. Please now welcome to the stage the convener of the fiction judges, Stephanie Johnson, to announce the winner, and she's joined by Margot McCool, who's representing the Acorn Foundation that administers the incredible legacy donor Jann Medlicott has left in the country's premier literary prize.
Tēnā koutou. In order to find the winner of the Jann Medlicott Acorn Prize for Fiction, my co-judges and I read a record 53 works. These ranged from collected short stories to novellas to novels, and in every possible genre: historical, crime, domestic, fantasy, contemporary, futuristic, experimental, speculative, and science fiction rubbed shoulders in heavy boxes delivered to our respective doors. Entries came from all over New Zealand, from Australia and Europe. We were by turns amazed, delighted, amused, sobered, and enlightened. The process brought us not only elation at the evidence of the great health of our national literature, but also the opportunity for many wide-ranging, robust, and enjoyable discussions. I would like to thank the Ockham New Zealand Book Awards Trust and my co-judges Gemma Morrison and John Huria. Expert international judge John Mitchison in the UK winged in on Zoom to help us with our final decision. Thank you also to the publishers and writers whose books were entered, especially those that made the long and short lists. The judging process took us across centuries and around the globe, and most importantly, into the hearts and minds of New Zealanders. It is our belief that several of the books in this year's competition will be treasured for generations. I am delighted to announce that the winner of the Jann Medlicott Acorn Prize for Fiction 2023 is Catherine Chidgey for the Axeman's Carnival.
The judges wrote The Axeman's Carnival is a novel that has been clasped to New Zealanders' hearts. It's narrated by the unforgettable Tama, a fledgling magpie taken in and raised by Māni on the Te Waipounamu high country farm she shares with champion axeman husband Rob. Without anthropomorphism, Tama is constantly entertaining with his take on the foibles and dramas of his human companions. An underlying sense of dread is shot through with humour and humanity. Chidgey's masterful writing explores the diversifying of rural life, the predicament of childlessness, the ageing champ, and domestic violence. She provides a perspicacious take on the invidious nature of social media and a refreshingly complex demonstration of feminist principle. The Axeman's Carnival is unique, poetic, profound, and a powerfully compelling read from start to finish. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Tama Magpie hoped to be here tonight, but at the rehearsal he became confrontational with Jack Tame, asking if his mum knew he was out on a school night. So security had him removed. He did prepare a speech he asked me to read. It's mostly profanities. Thanks to Te Herenga Waka University Press, my publisher for a quarter of a century. I'm so lucky to be in your flock. Thanks to my editor, the incomparable Jane Parkin, and to Carolyn Dorney and Kat Aitken at United Agents in the UK. Thank you to my late mother Pat for the books, and to my late father Les for the birds and the blood. I want to acknowledge all the long-listed fiction writers. It's been a thrill to rub shoulders with you. In particular, I want to mention Philip Mann, who died last year. I took my first ever creative writing course with him in the early 90s, and he was a gentle and inspirational teacher. Enormous thanks to my husband, Alan, and our little chick, Alice. The books could not happen without them. I'm especially grateful to Alan for letting me cannibalise his high country sheep station childhood. And thank you, Alice, for the pictures you drew me of the sunrise so I could see what the sky looked like when I was busy writing. It's bittersweet to win this prize when the legendary Jann Medlicott is no longer here to celebrate it too, but what a legacy she leaves. I'm so grateful to her and the Acorn Foundation. Thank you.
I follow Catherine on Twitter, and the other day she posted this amazing photo from a plane where she was sitting there crammed into her seat, and she looked across the aisle and the person on the other side of the aisle was reading her book. And I thought at the time, oh my God, there cannot be many feelings in life that rival that. But here we are, maybe this. Congratulations. It is almost time to wrap up our proceedings for the evening, but before we leave the theatre tonight, we want to invite Mark Todd, the co-founder and CEO of Ockham Residential, the award's wonderful naming sponsor since 2016, to come up to the stage and say a few words.
Thank you, Jack. It's a little embarrassing and humbling actually to be here right at the end, so I'll keep it really quick. Just want to mention a few things around values. Thanks to the bravery, Honourable Willow Jean Prime, for putting your head above the parapet and getting involved in politics. It's not easy. Thanks Desley Simpson, Deputy Mayor of Auckland, for turning up, and thanks for your bravery getting involved in politics too. It's not easy. I've got a lot of respect for you both for doing so. Thanks for Jack for bringing your reputation in mana to host these awards tonight. We really appreciate that. And I really wanted to get on to thanking the bravery and the shared values and all the good things that every writer, author, illustrator, publisher, that you're dedicating your life to things that matter. And I think I just want to put a shout out to artists, creative people, writers, musicians, analysts, academics, stand-up academics, these things that matter. And Ockham is very, very proud to be involved in sponsoring the New Zealand Book Awards. Hopefully next year there'll be the Aotearoa Book Awards. It's been a pleasure to see so many speakers on stage. The te reo is beautiful. My children's pronunciation is amazing. I'm a little embarrassed that, I know the tikanga, but I'm not brave enough to, or I haven't spent the time learning, but I think the world's changing, and that's another thing to be proud of that we've got going here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So just thank you so much to everyone in this room that is trying to share ideas, make us imagine the other. And I just want to encourage that sense of self-confidence in the creative and artistic community. It really matters in the world, and businessmen don't know anything. They're kind of a bit boring. Like engineers, you need them, but that's not where the soul of a nation lies. And I want our academics and writers to be in the public discourse. So well done, everyone, and thank you very much.
Tēnā koe. Thank you very much, Mark. Congratulations to our winning writers and their books this evening. Thank you to all of the finalists who shared their work here this evening, and of course to their publishers for everything that you do to enrich our lives and contribute to such a vibrant community of bookmakers, lovers and readers. Thanks also to our hardworking judges and to our generous sponsors. We couldn't do it without you. It really has been a pleasure to join you this evening for the Ockham New Zealand Book Awards. Before we go, we've got to thank the two boys on the beat. Let's thank musos Larson and Nava Katoa. Kia ora kōrua. Of course, all of the books that you have heard read here tonight are available for purchase just outside the doors. The only thing better that you can do then reading the books is buying the books. Many of the finalists and winners are going to be appearing over the next couple of days alongside a host of other authors at the Auckland Writers' Festival in this venue. So grab a program if you haven't already, find out what's on, and make sure you come along to as many events as you possibly can. It is a great way to support the New Zealand book and writing scene at our country's largest literary festival. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster online or at the box office outside. For now, though, that is enough from me. In the words of a wise man, kia nui te pāti. Have a wonderful celebration this evening. Nā reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.